Gavin, one other thing that we could take a look at is this Trump administration rescinding the federal grant freeze, walking back like everybody told them it would be an epic disaster. They didn't listen, and now they're learning the
Let's
hard
take
way.
a look at that. Shout out to you, Race Car. Thank you so much for the generous $20 super sticker.
Yeah, so Executive Office of the President, Memorandum for Heads of Executive Departments and Agencies, OMB Memorandum is rescinded. If you have any questions about implementing the President's executive orders, please contact your agency general counsel. So for people who don't know, Donald Trump, out of the blue and with 1 day's notice to these federal agencies, which included Medicaid, which included like Meals on Wheels, which included all kinds of stuff from research to medicine to just day-to-day things that the government is responsible for. He gave them 1 day and said, yeah, tomorrow your funding is gone. Go home. We're not doing it. We have to take stock of everything. We need to basically analyze and comb through any DEI or misuse of funds or whatever.
Marxist transgenderism.
Basically doing an audit. And they did it with no notice, and it was going to have catastrophic impacts. It already horrified people for a 24, 48-hour span, but it was blocked this morning by a federal judge. And then the White House walked it back because it was going to just lead to unmitigated disaster. These are, I mean, the reason we have a government, guys, the reason we have a nation state, right? The reason we have federalism, states, and the federal government is because it takes a lot of moving parts to run a society. It takes a shitload of moving parts to run a society in 2025 in America. And if you just cut off one of the supply chains, it's going to ripple and it's going to ruin a lot of lives. And it just showed immediately that Donald Trump does not have a single ounce of compassion in his heart, and he's not worried about the collateral damage that his administration imposes.
Yeah, 100%. And also, if we want to put up on screen AOC's response, do we have that at the ready, Zach? I think it's the next in our bookmarks.
Oh, perfect, right here.
Right there. Yeah, I thought this was an interesting response from AOC, and I actually agree with AOC. Zach, she says this is Trump's first major loss. When we fight, we win. We may not have majorities in the House and the Senate, but we do have the power to loudly educate and mobilize against the Trump administration. Against the mass looting the Trump administration is attempting against our veterans, healthcare, education, and more. Zach, I actually think that Trump rescinding this attempt at the federal freeze is a huge, huge L for his administration before it's really even begun, right? You know, RFK isn't even confirmed yet. A lot of people are still getting confirmed to cabinet positions. It's not even really started yet, but this is already a massive, massive L, in my opinion. A lot of American people freaked out yesterday, not just because they rely on some of this money for their own, you know, sort of like food stamps or the, you know, social assistance that they rely on to feed their family, but also a lot of people that have jobs who rely on federal grants were just absolutely freaking out in a total state of chaos yesterday, Zach. I heard all across the internet, from Reddit, from politically neutral forums, on Twitter, on Facebook, that people were just like completely in a state of disarray yesterday at a lot of different workplaces. So many different companies and organizations rely on some level of federal funding. Obviously, we talked about food stamps, Meals on Wheels, all these essential things like cancer research, scientific research across the board. Like, this is a huge disaster. And I think that, you know, Donald Trump and his allies, Steve Bannon, whatever, they had this kind of shotgun blast strategy. Let's just do a million villainous things overnight to overwhelm the media, to overwhelm the populace. Everyone will be too distracted by what's going on that they can't focus on any one thing, let alone attack any of it or properly mount a resistance. And for a while, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. That might not be a terrible strategy from a horrible Machiavellian, villainous perspective. But I think that what this move has already shown is that it was overplaying their hands. I think it was really overplaying their hands, and the American people are uneasy at this amount of quick, rapid, and seemingly just sort of directionless, chaotic change. And not, again, change in a way that really meaningfully uplifts most of their lives, not at all. For the most part, again, people are having to deal with the chaos, having to deal with the stress of trying to figure out what comes next, how they're going to pick up their lives in the wake of these monumental shifts. And again, I just don't think it's a good way to set the tone. what do people say about first impressions, right? It's hard to undo them. And although Trump has been president before, this is his, first impression for his second administration. For a lot of people, they may have been too young to remember, or they may just have tuned it out, or, Biden, whatever. This is the first impression for Trump 2.0. And I think this level of chaos, so much so that, less than 24 hours later, he's already having to come out and reverse the move, rescind this decision in a total sign of defeat. It's humiliating. And again, it sets the tone that there's an incompetent person at the wheel, that there's an incompetent force and an incompetent organization that's now in charge. And it's again leading to a mass sense of unease. It's leading to a mass sense of, oh shit, what's going on? Did we just elect a bunch of losers who have no idea what to do to run this country? Oh fuck. That seems to be the vibe.
Oh, 100% it is. And to add, just to supplement your argument, last night, President Donald Trump offers all federal workers buyouts worth 7 months of salary in an unprecedented effort to shrink the size of the government. This is him trying. He knew last night when he announced this that he was going to have to rescind the federal aid stoppage, right? That he was going to have to rescind his initial effort. So he's like, how do I still spin this into a W for me? So he goes ahead and he does this. And what I would attribute it to, or what I would liken it to rather, is when you're in a safe, neutral setting. Let's say you're at a diner with your friends, right? And they're talking to you about a surgery that they have to get or that they're recommending you get. And they're like, oh, yeah, lasers, all this kind of stuff. The medicine is so advanced. Like, I wouldn't worry about it. It's just, an incision. They're going to excise whatever tumor it is. And then they're going to stitch you back up and you're going to go home, right? When you're in the comfort of a situation where you want to believe that's right, that's all that's going to happen. They're just going to go in and get the tumor. It's going to be super easy, right? Now, imagine yourself, you're in the doctor's office, right? And the guy comes out with a chainsaw. And you're like, wait, whoa, I don't know if this is what I signed up for. And the guy's like, don't worry, I'm going to get that fucking tumor out. And you're like, yeah, but I might be dead when you're finished. And it's like, well, dude, fuck. Nobody promised that you would live through this. We said we were going to get that damn tumor out. Okay, we're going to get that damn tumor out. And so you would immediately change your perception of that. Now, we could sit back here and be like, we fucking told you so. Like, what dumbass believed that Donald Trump was actually going to do this? We saw him do it last time. But you're right that this is an immediate total failure that I think is on the scale of when he was unable to repeal and replace Obamacare. I think when John McCain stared him down and said, fuck you, I'm going to ruin your plans. I'm going to ruin any chance you have at legacy in your first term of anything else but tax cuts for the rich. Okay. Or dropping more bombs than Barack Obama did. Right. All these things happened already before. But Americans have very short memories, and Donald Trump knows how to exploit those memories. Did you notice how he never brought up his first term when he was running? Never brought it up. Anything that he did was just to talk about how much better it was before Joe Biden and after Joe Biden was worse. But he never got into the specifics of his, accomplishments or his policy maneuvers or anything.
He would just be like, we had the greatest economy of all time, folks. Don't you want to go back to that? Don't you want to go back?
Exactly. He never talked. Like, if it was a Democrat that had been running, they would have been like, look at the CHIPS Act. Look at the Build Back Better. Look at these things that we did during our tenure, right? He knew none of that meant shit to anybody. Remember when I was in WrestleMania in the 90s and I was a cool billionaire and then I said, you're fired on television? He went right back to that, and the country let him. They let him seduce them, and now they are kind of reaping what they sow. But I also don't find anything amusing or satisfying in pointing out that people have been duped by a con man, because con men dupe people, and that's wrong, and it's immoral, and we have to call out the criminals and not the people who were victims of the criminal behavior.
Yup, 100%.